Jay Kilroy here. We're back on the angle plates. We're over here at the Big Kearney Trucker. We did some shaper work, which is always well received, and now we're going to do some more conventional milling. A lot of viewers like the kind of juxtaposition of old versus a lot older. And so we're going to do some work on the same plate that we worked on last time. Last video we did the top here and then the two working faces. We roughed those out. So what we're going to do now, we're going to set up in here. I'm set up at a 45-degree angle in the vise. We're going to cut out that relief groove a lot deeper to give ourselves more room to work. Then we're going to cut the sides, the fronts, and the back, all the other surfaces, and then we're going to take this stuff over and do some measuring and see what kind of work we have left to do in order to get this thing actually square-ish and flat-ish before we hit it with the scraper. So trust me, you want to get as much work as done as you can before you decide to take all the remaining metal off manually. So what I've done here is, let me pull the camera in closer. Okay, what I've done here is I had to swivel my vise around. The vise is on a swivel base, which it's not normally on a swivel base, but I swiveled the vise around here in order to mount my workpiece in this manner, and then I put my Noga indicator holder in the drill chuck, just happened to be in the spindle here, and indicated off the back of this of the moving vise jaw once the workpiece had been mounted up. So I got a good, so that I could be fairly confident that it was perpendicular to the table to the degree to which is necessary for this job, which really isn't great. This cut right here, really, it's just a relief. A lot of precision isn't required, but we are fairly comfortable with that. So take this one out of here. And so now I need to get this drill chuck out of here and get a end mill holder or collet chuck in place and get a cutting tool in place for us to make this cut. All right, we're all lined up, ready to go here. We got our jaw mounted in at a 45-degree angle plate. We've got a TG75 collet chuck in the spindle with a 3/8 ball nose 4-flute end mill. And we're all lined up, ready to make our first cut. And I turned the machine off so you could actually hear me. And I'm going to fire the machine up and kick the spindle into drive. We'll be running at about 1,000 RPM, and we'll go ahead and make this. Probably gonna just feel it out, make a couple of passes, and then when it looks good, we'll call that done. Feeling it out, just making sure I'm lined up right here. And I'm not. left quite a pile of dust. Let me get the vacuum cleaner and we will clean it out, and we'll take one more pass on the way back. I'm going to bring it up an additional 50 thou. We're going to make another cut. That looks pretty good. I think we're gonna go with that. That's right. Bozo paid a visit. Who would think that a 3/8 inch 4-flute ball nose end mill could pick this up out of the vise? All right. But it did. Let me zoom the camera in and show you the damage. It's savable, as you'll see here. I've already saved it, and I'll show you some of those cuts here in a second on the video. But I want to show. I've got some still shots. Show you the damage as it occurred. But basically, that little ball nose end mill pulled the plate in the vise over into the work, and gave us a little bit of a scar, but it's pretty easy recovery. So check it out. Okay. Well, that is it right there. So when I clean this is the second part. This is the larger one. When I clean this face and this face, when I clean this face up, most of that's going to go away. We'll just be left with a tiny little mark there. But in general, if you get down in there and look, we got a beautiful surface finish. Beautiful cut down in there for the relief. So, but yep, Bozo paid us a visit. Okay guys, we're over at the Kearney Trekker. We got our face plate here, our angle plate in the vise. We're going to take a roughing pass off of the front and rear edges, and then we're going to replace the, we'll take a roughing pass, then we'll replace the roughing end mill with a 6-flute finishing end mill, and we will climb cut the front and back surfaces to give us a real nice finish. So we're running about 150 RPM here, about 1/8 of an inch depth of cut, and let's get with it. Alright, we're through with that cut. The handy piece of equipment, if you got a big mill, is a mirror. You got a really nice smooth finish on there. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to mess around replacing that end mill and doing another pass. That's really quite workable. Back at the bench, we've had our Bozo experience for the day, hopefully. We are moving forward with working on these angle plates. So I've got several questions about the order of operations. Like, okay, you got these angle plates, you got these castings. How do you choose which cuts to make first? And because it might not always seem obvious. So castings are, fairly difficult to hold. They've got draft on them in a lot of places, in every direction. They've got a rough surface, imperfections. They've got a hard glazed surface, so your vise, whatever, doesn't really grab. They're kind of slick. So what you do is, the way I do it, and I'm not saying this is the only way, but the way I do it is try to go from the cuts that will put the least amount of force into the workpiece first, and then work your way, as you clean up surfaces, work your way to larger cuts. So, and I'm going to bring the camera around here and show you why we just did the two cuts that we did, and I think this will become clear to you. All right, so here's our casting. The first one we did, the smaller one. And this is the face. These are the two faces that we cleaned up on the shaper. And then I cut this nice relief groove here in the bottom. And then we went and cut this surface and this surface, these two surfaces here. So they're parallel, one here, one here. We cut those at the same time in the vise. Or we cut those, turned around and cut the other. So we have two nice straight surfaces here. And why do we do it that way? Well, I'll show you why. The next surface I want to cut is this surface here, this end, right? And I needed a way to grab this workpiece and hold it securely so I could cut that end. Why is this a big deal, you say? That's why. So we've got what? Let me get a piece of paper to put behind there. So I've got every bit of 1/8 of an inch of draft right here, right? From the bottom of this workpiece to the top. So this is going to be we're going to do this with a face mill, and this cut's going to cover the entire distance at once with a 6-inch face mill. And we're going to take this cut, we're going to be cutting across this whole surface. Well, I wanted a nice, firm, smooth surface in order to hold this part while I take the cut on this face. That's why I cut these two surfaces first, because these were low impact cuts. They put a relatively low amount of force into the part. This is going to put a lot of force into the part. So that is why I chose to do these surfaces first. For all intents and purposes, this back is complete. Unless I decide to put slots or holes in this plate, this back is done. The only two surfaces left to finish, 3 surfaces left to finish, are this end, and the bottom. And we're all the other cuts are working around to getting us to this cut off the bottom. Once the bottom's cut, once this bottom is cut, then I will go back and recut this surface and this surface so that I know that they are absolutely square or perpendicular as it fits here to that bottom surface.